There will be occasions when you're doing your fair isle when you will want to break the rules. You'll want to strand over more than 5 stitches at a time. And when that's the case, you have the option of weaving in your strands. This Kay Fawcett sweater's jacket is a perfect example of this. I'm going to open it up to the inside so that you can see how I wove. See that brown? That brown goes from 1 stitch, then there are 4 rows of the heather, or 4 stitches, excuse me, of the heather, and then 1 of the brown. And on every row, I wove those on a different stitch. I tried to move that weave around because it tends to show a little bit on the front side. Now up in this section, where there are only 3 stitches spanned, I did not weave those in. Now, Kay Fawcett, when he does his own work, weaves them in just about every stitch or every other stitch, but it was my option. It went a little bit faster. And this one, I did do this one on the bond. When you turn it over, you can see a very slight difference here. If I'm to stretch this fabric a tiny bit, see, I can see those weaves through there. And it's for that reason that I generally prefer not to weave in. However, sometimes the design calls for it. And there is one very popular favorite design. One of its names is Little Lice, Little Louses. I think that's the Norwegian term for it. This is the only sweater that you have seen that I did not make. I have made such sweaters with little lice in them, or little birds, but I just don't have any here. These are these little scattered bird effects, and they are always separated by an odd number of stitches, and then you knit an even number of rows. Now the reason I wanted to have you try this is we're going to do a nice long strand between those little stitches so that you have a chance to weave them in. Let's go to the frame. And also this is the lazy knitter strikes again. We're going to use our green card as a measurement for us. We do with an odd number of stitches in between, so I am going to push out every 8th needle. And one of the reasons I love pushing out every 8th needle for this is because if I lay my green card right in the channel behind the needle that's in holding position, it tells me where to push out the next one, and I don't have to count. Actually, maybe this isn't laziness so much as it's a little bit difficult for me to see sometimes. There we go. So these are, I'm purposely making these very long so that you have good long strands to go in between. Now, step number 1, again, this always follows the same 3 steps for every row. The contrast color needles are in holding position. Do I have, oh, claw weights, they're not doing too bad. For those of you who can see my knitting, okay, want to make it look nice and neat. I'm going to knit across, step number 2. Good, it's going to jam here. Oh, it didn't even jam. Oh, there, I knew I had jamming. When it jams, it sometimes wants to jam when you're doing this. Just means go ahead and pull those needles out and it will go nicely across, move nice and slowly. And then you come back with your contrast color. I'm just going to use this end. I'm not going to cut again. So you can see that we're starting a new pattern design, but I am going to catch this just like I did before. In fact, I'm going to weave in a couple of stitches here because this is essentially what we're going to be doing. Then I come up and knit my contrast color stitch. Then right in the very middle, I stick that needle out into holding position, bring that over. Again, remember Goldilocks, not too tight, not too loose. I just have sort of constant pressure under it. Can you see how I am pushing then every 4th needle out into holding position, laying that strand over it, and pulling it through? Okay, once I get to this point, I'm going to push these needles back into half knit position. Make sure these latches are open. It's very important here. The strand is behind the latch and the stitch is behind the latch. Oops, that latch wants to close a little bit. Let me get my claw weights back on here. That'll help us. And when I go back to knit my next row, which this time I don't have to put my needles into holding position, right? Because this is not a pattern row. So I knit 1, 2, 3, 4. I can do 5 or 6. I'll do 6. That's a nice 7 and 6. That's a good balance. You can do it 4 and 5, 5 stitches between, 4 rows in between, or 6 rows. The reason I wanted to knit an even number of rows is, look, isn't this nice? My yarn is at the same end as that. And being a person who gets confused if the yarns are going in opposite directions, I like to keep it nice and simple on this side. Okay, this time you are going to go back and put your little lice in the alternate stitches, the stitch that's centered over those other 2 lice down below. And if you did your stranding real well, now see I have an end stitch here, which means I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. There's my center stitch. With any luck, that should be right under yes. That sort of helps you visually. But once I get the first one out, of course, you take out your green card. Helps you line things up. Once almost did a whole sweater like this. We're staggering these. Okay. And again, knit across. Step number 2, knit across with main color. And manually knit this last row. I told you I don't like to start right at the beginning, and I was not paying attention. It's amazing what you can miss if you're not looking at it from this side. Look at this long float that I have here. I should have stopped at about row 3 and hung it over the end stitch. However, because this is actually a sweater and we're going to work it into the side seam, I'll catch that long float in there and it won't be too big a tragedy. But I'll bring it over, oops, there we go, this way. And then I'm going to knit it. Let me try it on this side. I'm going to stick that one out, go over. This is one of those rows that you don't want to be interrupted on, because here you are putting alternate needles into holding position, and if the phone rings, you don't know whether or not you're supposed to knit those. It's confusing. So if the phone rings, don't answer it if you're right in the middle of one of these rows. If it's important enough, they'll call back. And before you can answer it, if it's still ringing, get those needles back into half knit position. Then you know where you are and you can see those floats over them. Now I would like you to try making little birds or little lice. I would like you to do at least 3 pattern rows of them. They should be separated by 7 stitches in between, then knit 6 rows, then stagger them, then knit 6 rows and do another one that staggers them over the original stitches, then turn your tape back on.